Well, I had a very interesting session in the bath. I didn't stay in long, maybe 10-15 minutes at the most. This bath water is left over from yesterday. It's more than 24 hours old. And I did not add any hot water to it, so it's kind of chilly in there. I took a dip in it yesterday afternoon and it was mildly cool, but now it's quite chilly. And what I'm thinking is, one of the problems of silver hydroperoxide is that it enhances digestion, pitta, the pitta dosha, and it's very easy to fall into a rage, especially if you have any grievances, regrets, resentments. To begin with, it's not going to give you something to be regretful over or resentful over, but if you already have it, it'll certainly bring it to the forefront and enhance it. And you won't tolerate, what you've been suppressing or overlooking, ignoring. You won't be able to ignore it anymore. So you'll have to take remedial action. Well, one of the problems is regulating. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a question of regulating it so it doesn't get out of hand. Now, there were rumors that these early day meditators, siddhas, who received the program of the Siddhi program from Maharishi back in the 70s, they were taking cold showers because their kundalini was rising and they were getting really hot, and they had to cool down to keep from blowing up or, getting too hot, basically. So I've always left that in the back of my head, and I thought, well, okay, whatever. And I did go to the beach for a little while and surf. It's kind of chilly in the surf, at least for me anyway. I'm not a meat eater. And I can swim in cold water if I have to. I can get used to it. And it's quite strengthening. It's weakening at first, but if you do it regularly, no matter how ginger you start out, baby steps, but with persistent repetition, your physiology just automatically gets strengthened. And since a bath in silver hydroperoxide will strengthen the pitta dosha so that you'll have greater immunity and greater digestion, it stands to reason you will have greater rage if you have anything to regret or resent. So dipping in here and being immersed up to my chest, that's about as far as I got was my sternum. It was kind of chilly, but 15 minutes, hey, it's more than what I did yesterday. It wasn't this cold yesterday. And what I noticed, and the reason why I'm doing this is what I noticed was without the cayenne pepper to destabilize the silver, all the trouble I go to stabilize it with the help of hydrogen peroxide and MSM, why would I want to go and destabilize it with cayenne pepper? So really the correct approach is to destabilize the body, not the body of water, but the body itself with the cold temperature of the water, if it's needed. Now, if you're feeble, of course, obviously, you need the nutrients to strengthen yourself, so why take a cold bath? We all take warm baths. But this is so strengthening to the physiology. Once you start getting strong, then it might be time to take chilled baths. Now, I used to take hot baths in the morning because I get up, it's been cold all night sleeping, my body gets chilled maybe, and so it stands to reason to take my hot bath in the morning, not in the afternoon when it's hotter than it is in the morning. But a cold bath is pretty easy to take in the middle of the day if you've been out and about and going around and, you get your circulation going, so it's pretty easy to do it in the middle of the day to take a break from the activity before it starts getting cold. And after the day has warmed you up, if you take the trouble to run around and do things. So it stands to reason to do it around in the middle of the day rather than in the morning. But this could become a comfortable habit. And now I would imagine at some point the oxidative potential of what I've put in there will reduce to zero. And bacteria will start to fester. I don't know what point that will be reached, how long it'll take, but I put so much silver in there and thoroughly converted it to, oxidized hydroperoxide of silver, that superoxidized hydroperoxide of silver, that it has a lot of oxidative potential, but I don't know how long it'll last. But it literally acts like a capacitor. the electrolyte of a battery, basically, in that it stores electric charge, negative electric charge. So I'm getting a negative electric charge. I'm charging up my body by getting in the water. Now, Charlie Lutz used to say that the people who live in Rio de Janeiro are all alcoholics because their livers are bad, because they never experience a change of the seasons. It's always paradise. And they suffer for having a bad liver because of that perennial paradise condition. The liver has to have shock occasionally because it's called the liver for a reason, to live. You live to live for something. So, anyway, that's as much as I can tie together, but this might become a habit, taking the bath chilled rather than hot, and only using a hot bath when necessary. Just like only using cayenne pepper when necessary. The bath itself is basic, but there are consequences to the bath, and that's basically what we have to learn to deal with. Because having good health, immunity, and having good digestive system are very two important things. Something I've never had my entire life. It's a congenital defect. It's something at birth. I've been, because my family was alcoholics, and we were living on a raw food vegan diet, so that's a terrible combination. If you're meat eating, it's okay, it's tolerable, because the meat counterpoises. And if you smoke, because there's stimulants. Meat is a stimulant, tobacco is a stimulant, coffee. So if you're taking a suppressant like alcohol, it's counterpoised. And if you get enough calories. But when you're on a fasting, raw food, vegan diet, not a good idea. And they were alcoholics without knowing it because the food was bought in bulk, the produce, and stored in the garage instead of in a fridge. So it's spoiled. And all the carbs were in the form of sugars, fruit. And they turned to alcohol. So now the carbs, many of them, was alcohol carbs instead of sugar carbs. They didn't know it, but my brother was a head shorter than his cousin. Yet they were only different in age by 3 weeks. And my brother was the correct weight for his age, just not the correct size. Just a whole head shorter. So he looked chubby. Kind of cute, but deficient in size. He grew out of it, but he did not grow out of the resentment of what he had to live with. Now, I never grew up with that resentment because I wasn't raised that way. But I was conceived. Far worse than my brother. My brother was conceived early on in their dietary regimen, so they really didn't impact him in any severe way at birth. They impacted him instead with experiences that he came to resent. While I have no resentment because I wasn't raised that way, so I still believe in it, yet I know I can't do it. I wouldn't know how to. But I don't resent it. But I was born with a congenitally defective body, which of course I don't resent either because I was born with it. I don't know any better. Yet I know it's wrong to suffer. That part I resent. I never did yeah, you could say yeah, that's right. I resent it. I might as well be honest. I do resent all the memories of childhood of being sick so much. I was sick a lot, and I didn't like it. And I was pretty much ignored. Unless I got a nosebleed, then I wasn't ignored. Otherwise, it was horrible. But I was sick a lot. So I've had other things challenge me worse come along the way since then. Parasites in Hawaii, because I thought my 100% raw food vegan diet would protect me, and it did. It just didn't protect me from the long-term devastation of being eaten alive by flesh-eating parasites, but I never got sick, so I didn't know how badly I was inoculating myself with parasites. And then antifreeze. That accelerates the degeneration of the physiology. You age more quickly. And so I have all the reason in the world to study Becker, but in a different way, from a different angle. Rosemary Jacobs notwithstanding. I'm not here to heal a wound, although that's nice. And I've learned to take a bath. It helps the wound process heal. And to use a lotion, make a lotion with silver in it. It may not be colloidal silver. I haven't acquired that skill yet. But at least if it has silver particles, at least it's got something. Yeah, it's going to take me a while to develop a skill to develop the right lotion for wound care. But I'm starting out. I'm just beginning. But at least I got the bathing down pat. Well, at least I am getting it pat. I'm learning more. I suspected I would have to take a cold bath at some point, but I didn't have the nerve. I got the nerve now because I'm making it. I've got wholesale. I'm making it concentrated. There's so much silver in there, it's murky. It's got silver particles that can't go into solution. All of them. I mean, some of it is, but there's an excess, and so it stays out of solution and floats around in the water, giving it a milky white appearance. Slightly. Anywho, that's about as much as I have to say on the subject, but this is quite intriguing.